What's going on, y'all? I'm KM Best, and I'm here to talk to you about the newest card in Marvel Snap, Master Mold. Master Mold is a 2-cost card with 2 power, with an on-reveal effect that adds 2 Sentinels to your opponent's hand. This can be useful because those Sentinels are very difficult to get out of your hand. So, because the Sentinels replace themselves in your opponent's hand, you can basically guarantee that unless they have some form of hard discard, like MODOK, they're going to have those 2 extra cards in their hand. Now, there are a couple obvious synergies that come to mind, and most of the decks that I'm going to showcase for this card today involve those obvious synergies. But let's run through the basics of like how I would use Master Mold, how I have been using Master Mold, and what you generally want to do when you are playing Master Mold. So, first things first, his power is all tied up in his disruptive abilities. He is not a card that you can play for value. Frankly, I think there is kind of no reason why this card should not be a 2/3 with a little bit of extra power. After all, if he is the mold from which Sentinels are created, why does he have less power than them? That seems a little bit off to me. Now, I also think that it seems like the kind of card that is only useful really to disrupt your opponent, to make it so they can't draw cards, or generally clog up their board with these sort of vaguely useless Sentinels, and that is a lot of the way it's deployed. It is a disruption card first and foremost. It's best compared to cards like Baron Mordo, rather than a card like Maximus, in which case, with Maximus, the drawing 2 cards is very specifically supposed to be a downside that you have to work around, because you can see that because of his enormous 7 power. With Master Mold, 2 power, I think it's pretty clear that the designers think that putting 2 Sentinels in your opponent's hand is an active and useful disruption effect. And frankly, I have found that it's a little more useful than it sounds on first glance. So let's dive into a couple of Master Mold decks, and then we'll talk about an overall rating and how I feel about the card and if you should buy. I'm a man with a jacket. That means you should listen to my opinion. Here's our first deck with Master Mold. It is affectionately named Ronan the Accuser because we're playing Ronin and Devil Dinosaur in the same deck. We get a lot of overlap here, at least in the context of, Mystique can copy Ronin, Mystique can copy Devil Dinosaur. We also have a little bit of on-theme things going on. Master Mold in our Sentinel deck, pretty cool. I do think that armor is more or less required in builds like this because you are investing mostly in large units a lot of the time. Getting to play Maximus, like if you can, like there are legitimately games where you go Moon Girl and end up playing 2 Maximuses on turn 6 rather than playing another big unit. It's actually pretty good. Like going Moon Girl, Ronin, Maximus, that's a genuinely decent play. Now, I don't think this deck, or really any of the decks we're talking about with Master Mold, with maybe a few exceptions, match up very well into Thanos and Shuri, unless those decks are not drawing very well. That said, I do have some games versus Shuri to show you at the end if you want to check out how Master Mold looks in actual gameplay. So this deck is like pretty basic, just play good cards, put points on the board. It's a decent use of Master Mold. I think if you don't have a lot of other cards that go with Master Mold, this is kind of what you want to do with it, and you'll notice, not for the first time, Master Mold going alongside Ronan the Accuser. These cards are best friends. Ronan the Accuser getting extra power for the cards in your opponent's hand means that you get extra benefit from playing Master Mold. Now, it's not just a card that clogs up the board for them. It's not just a card that makes them have to think about, do I want to play these Sentinels? It's not just a card that can punish them. Let's say if they don't play a card for 2 turns, suddenly their hand might be a little bit too full to draw another card. It's not just that. Now it's a card that makes it very hard for Ronin to be underrate. If you play Maximus, if you play Master Mold, Ronin is probably going to have around 11 power at a minimum, barring hard discard. This makes him a very, very solid 5-cost card. Now, moving on to the second deck, I like to refer to it as the Master of My Mold main deck. And what it is I fused the Specimen board control list, which you might have seen in my previous tier list video. I fused it with Ronin and Master Mold. And here is a deck that is using Master Mold as a way to sort of trick your opponent into putting cards out on the board early, right? When Master Mold activates, your opponent is in a situation where either they end up playing the Sentinels or they have to play other cards if they want to draw cards in the future. So this forces your opponent to deploy early. It makes them very vulnerable to your turn 4 Titania plus Green Goblin plays. It's honestly, I think, a really good use of the card. However, there is one thing to note. Ronin itself does remove a big portion of what makes this deck very competent in the current metagame, which is Ronin dies to Shang-Chi. And that is a problem. This card dying to Shang-Chi, where other builds of the deck play, Spider-Man and Arrow, that's a problem, because you are gonna be running that risk. But I do think this illustrates one of the ways in which Master Mold might be being a little underrated right now. You can use him as sort of semi-effective board clog. I'd be interested to see what this could do in a hazmat shell, for example. I didn't get around to that, but it's definitely something that you can try out. Now, next deck is called Who Up Bouncin' They Mold. It is another variation on a deck I included in my tier list. This one is the Jeff Hoogland bounce deck, but instead of a Darkhawk package, we're playing a Master Mold Ronin package. It's good. I do think it's pretty likely, I can't say for sure, we've only had a couple days of testing, but I think it's pretty likely the Darkhawk version of the deck is going to end up being superior. I also think it might be worth investigating what happens if we just put Master Mold in the Darkhawk version of the deck. That's definitely something worth thinking about. What I will say is this is a very fun deck to play. It is an absolute blast, or should I say bast, and I have really, really enjoyed playing it. If you happen to have the cards for it, definitely worth considering. One issue that I ran into, though, is, you kind of want to play Maximus in a deck like this, and his anti-synergy with Bast is pretty potent. So I'm not 100% sure on it. I also, you'll notice I did play a Baron Mordo here. I'm pretty sure that card just sucks, but I really wanted to play a Baron Mordo. So, I can't say a ton about this in terms of competitive viability. I think there is a decent chance it ends up just being not necessarily strictly worse, but mostly worse than the Darkhawk build of this deck. But it is functional, I can tell you that much. Now on to the next deck, Trickledown Multinomics. We just slammed Master Mold and Ronin into the Electro Sandman shell. It's very boring. We did have to lose Shang-Chi, which does open us up to getting absolutely demolished by Shuri. But I honestly sort of got to the point with the Sandman Electro deck where I was like, okay, well, even with the Shang-Chi, we're losing to a lot of the Shuri plays. Like, if they just play Armor or Cosmo, we're kind of losing to those anyway. And so a lot of the Shuri decks are playing those cards. I don't think Shang-Chi is really a reliable answer so much. You just kind of have to take the L in that matchup. Now, we do have, Ebony Maw still in the deck as a concession to Thanos. You want to do things like Ebony Maw, Lizard, Wave into Sandman. That'll be the Thanos deck some of the time. It's a reliable thing to do. Definitely not a bad thing. You can absolutely do it. One of the other things that this deck can do is play Wave into Arnim Zola into Odin. Now, the way that this works is you will play Wave on any of the lanes, let's just say the middle. You play Wave in the middle, you play Arnim Zola on the Wave effect happens again. You play Odin on the lane with the Arnim Zola in it. Arnim Zola triggers hitting the Odin, sending it out to the other two lanes. So you end up with 11 power in 2 lanes while they are only playing 1 card a turn. It's not as strong as it used to be. When people were playing a lot more aggressive Zoo-style Sarah decks, this was a very strong thing to be doing. Now, I think it's a little less good because people are most decks actually have a couple big units they don't mind playing off of a Wave, but it's still a line to keep in mind. Now, the main function of Arnim Zola here, of course, is so you can go, Electro into Sandman into Ronin Arnim Zola, right? Because Ronin is going to be very large in the context of a Sandman, preventing them from playing any cards. That's pretty much the idea here. You're going to have a big Ronin in a couple lanes, and it's going to be enough. Now, we do take L's to Shuri. I cannot stress that enough. We take a lot of L's to Shuri, but sometimes you just got to take those L's. Last deck I wanted to highlight is, I think, in my opinion, the best Ronin deck that I have played. I call it No Country for Mold Men, and it is very similar to a lot of the other good cards Ronin shells, but what it does effectively, I think this is very similar specifically to the WW Los Doom defense deck. But adding Ronin lets the deck go vertical in multiple lanes. And what I mean by that is previously you'd be doing things like Wave into She-Hulk Doom, which is good, but if you need to hard target winning 2 lanes, Wave into She-Hulk Ronin is a much more dangerous thing to do. Now, Wave even also has the side benefit of you kind of get to know how big your Ronin is going to be. You get to know that because they're only going to be able to play 1 card, barring some very specific situations. And that is usually a good thing. Now, in terms of flex slots, I think White Queen is a little iffy here. I think Shang-Chi is a little iffy here. And I think Scorpion is a little iffy here. Feel free to experiment with those slots, in my opinion. I think those are the ones that I would spend the most time looking at. Shang-Chi is basically bad up until it's game winning. And that's just how tech cards tend to go. White Queen is a very good card, but I do sort of wonder if we can't do better than just very good, right? One of the big things that I do feel like I'm missing is Mr. Fantastic, a way to affect priority in multiple lanes other than Dr. Doom. I think that can really end up mattering in games against other decks similar to this. This one is pretty okay into Shuri decks. You have a lot of different ways to force them into awkward situations. Obviously, if they just draw the nuts on you, they're probably going to win if they manage to play, you know, exactly the Shuri combo of, you know, Cosmo, Shuri, Red Skull, Taskmaster. Like, that'll get you. But a lot of the time, you have a lot of game into that. As far as Thanos goes, it's very much their draw dependent. You are able to clog their hands with Master Mold pretty reliably. The issue is they run Quinjet. They don't even really mind. They can throw those Sentinels into Lockjaw. They don't really mind. So if they start rolling downhill on you, you are going to be in trouble. Your job is to stop them from rolling downhill, and you have to respect their snaps. Because if they are snapping on you, that means all your preparation, all your Master Mold to prevent them from drawing the nuts, it didn't work. It didn't work at all. You got to respect it. Now, those are the 5 decks that I put together for Master Mold. I'm interested to see if you have any as well, but let's move on to the next part of the video where we talk about overall card impressions and the number I would give Master Mold on my 1 out of 5 star system. So let's jump right in. My overall impression of Master Mold is it is a more effective card than I expected it to be. I expected it to be roughly a 2 out of 5, like a very fringe card that you wouldn't really have a lot of reason to play. But the synergy with Ronin and the ability to bring Maximus back into these decks that focus on priority very heavily is good. Maximus is a very powerful 3-cost card, the strongest 3-cost card with the exception of Black Cat. And being able to play him in a deck where points really matter again, I think that's really good. Now, as far as the rest of Master Mold, you'll notice that kind of all of these decks followed a theme, which is, we took a good deck, we put Maximus, Master Mold, and Ronin in it. Like, yeah, there is a little bit of that. I don't think he's ever going to be, like, wildly overpowered. I do think Hand Clog is more effective than I thought it would be. I think my overall rating of Master Mold, taking into account that he is pretty good and also that he is pretty limited in terms of application, right? When you buy Master Mold, you're only really doing this one thing. You're not really buying Master Mold with the intention of, I want to put him in so many different Master Mold decks. He's kind of limited. You're kind of doing the one thing. Now, it's just a question of how you play to his strengths the best. And given that, I would give Master Mold 3 out of 5 stars. That means, in my opinion, you should not spend 6,000 tokens for Master Mold. Now, this, of course, brings me to a very important discussion, which is, are any Series 5 cards actually worth spending 6,000 tokens on? And here's the thing. No, unless they're not downgrading, it's not worth spending tokens on any of them. That said, the way I regard my star system is 5 stars will be, you actually should buy this card. 4 stars would be, if you have other obligations in terms of your credits out of the way. Like, if you already say you have Thanos, you have Galactus, you have Kang, these are the cards that are not downgrading, then you can buy this card. And then 3 would be even below that, right? So I would say that unless you are very close to full collection, like I am, Maybe you're a content creator. You want to make a video like this. I don't know. I would say you should not buy Master Mold. He's cool. He lets you do some cool things. Cool is not worth 6,000 tokens. It never will be. Now, I'm hopeful that maybe Second Dinner's announced potential changes to the collection track, to the collector token system. Maybe that helps. For right now, don't buy Master Molds unless you are absolutely desperate and wealthy. Those are the people who should buy Master Mold. You're desperate, you're wealthy. Also, if you're desperate and wealthy, find me on Twitch, donate me subs. As always, y'all, I would love if you hit that little heart button. Yeah, you liked and subscribed. You did the things that make my dopamine levels rise. Leave your thoughts on Master Mold in the comments below. Tell me if you think the rating system is fair. I think that it almost feels a little misleading to say, you know, like only a 5 out of 5 is worth buying, but I don't really know a better way to describe it, right? I'm interested in your thoughts on my star rating system in addition to Master Mold, so please let me know what you got. I'll see you in the next one. This has been KM Best. Thanks. All right, Scorpion, it's fuck! I was like, oh, it's time for Scorpion to prove his worth. No. Have you tried Sandman on a list with Ronin? Yes. Man, this is exactly, like, the whole point of having these 2 drops in the deck is so we don't pass these turns. And here we are, passing these turns. How would you change Baron? God knows. I don't know if I have a good idea for that. Do you have a good idea for that? How's it going, Zombie Lemon? I want to draw the She-Hulk is kind of the issue, but I don't think I'm going to be able to draw the She-Hulk. Have some crap. Oh, that's not good. They're always playing it over here, too. I think I lose. Wait. My guy's bigger. I mean, I guess I got a shot. I guess I got a fucking shot. I don't think I really have a shot, but I guess I technically kind of do. Oh, tiebreaker by 1. Oh, if that was anything but Titania, even 0 we beat. Fuck. Just specifically Taskmaster Titania was the thing that beat us here, right? I don't know. I mean, this is something, right? It demonstrates that we're at least in contention with, like, that was a great draw from Shuri, right? Like, and we competed with that very ably. I mean, we beat them last time. I don't know. I think we might be onto something. Maybe, perhaps. Who knows? Okay, this one I know is a bad matchup. Boomer is playing MODOK Discard, which is just, like, horrendous against my Master Mold MODOK deck. Wait, that's not mood. That's not discard. Holy shit, we have a matchup. We have a matchup. We have a game. Is your Scorpion inked? Yeah, it is. Wait, he's playing Shuri. That's illegal. YOLO. I would guess the Shuri'd unit goes middle, or he's... Wow, really? Me too, dude. He didn't pull the fucking Shang-Chi, though. That sucks. So we're losing that lane unless we pull the Taskmaster into it. I mean, we're losing that lane anyway, but... What? Oh, that's so heinous. Oh, that's so heinous. Let's make a read. Holy shit. We did it! We did it again! Another Shuri victory! We're in this. We're in these games. Buying Master Mold right now. Yeah, tell him Cam Best sent you. You know, people don't know this about the Marvel Snap Creator Program, but actually, if anyone watches my videos and buys Master Mold, I get your money.